specific. So that, in B school cases, there are multiple decision points that can, and you can do a set of permutations and combinations and come up with very different sorts of solutions to the case. So what we've done here is we've sort of dumbed it down a little and said, okay, maybe a case will have two key decision points that will highlight maybe one functional aspect, one behavioral aspect, depending on what the company really needs. So essentially, it's not going to be as exhaustive as a business school case, but then very, very specific to the function, so that the business manager or the line manager who's actually recruiting or sitting in the discussion can see how the new candidate will work in his environment.
If you have this expertise, I mean, who's within the company, or you're hiring an external consultant to do this?
We're hiring an external consultant. We're actually onboarding an external consultant too. And we have experts on our team to advise us on the kind of people to bring on board.
I'm going to ask a cruel question. I agree, I think you can find these cases quite easily. What's to stop me just getting a case and getting 6 candidates on Skype? It costs me nothing. But what's different about this than just having 6 using Skype, asking them all to log in, having distributed a case which I've just picked up from any library? Well, what do you offer more than that?
So first of all, the case that you pick up from the library, in order to go through the case, the kind of effort that's involved, in the sense that you pick up a case from a library. First of all, if you're giving it out to 6 candidates, you have to pay for each candidate because it's pay-per-view cases, typically is what we've seen. So the number of copies that you make of the case, you have to pay the source of the case. That's the first thing. The second thing is, the case is going to be so long and so exhaustive. The people who are evaluating and the people who are participating will have to go through the case. So the lead time, the preparation time for the case is going to be very, very long. Whereas in this case, what's going to happen is, since it's a very, very specific business issue, specific to that industry, so the people will be on board faster. And the second function that we have, which is really a game changer, is the video option. So what we'll have is we'll also have supporting videos of the cases. So in case you don't have time to read through the case, to see the video to get an idea of what the case is talking about. So that's one thing that differentiates us. The second thing is, on Skype you can't really evaluate in real time among several key stakeholders. Because what we found, again, when we were researching the product, the concept, is that evaluation nowadays happens on paper. So when you're being interviewed by someone, there'll be a sheet where they'll list out all the competencies where you have to rate the candidates.
Like this.
Yeah, something like that. And then what happens is, now the 3 of you will give us grades. Now, then it'll go out and somebody actually has to go through those things to come up with the final result. So what we're saying is, we take that away. You select what parameters you're looking for. You evaluate real time. We'll do the calculations and give you the score in one shot, instead of you having to go through it on paper. And typically what happens is, what we found, in senior management positions, usually the business manager, and then his boss, and then his boss, and then his boss, there's a set of evaluations, and it's not even done on the same day. It usually is spread over months. So by the time the HR actually sits down and starts evaluating each of the candidates, it takes a lot of time. So what we're saying is, we just take that away. We're bringing it online so that even the busy managers can sort of log in and look at the case discussion.
In your written business plan, you had asked for $10,000 for 5%. Yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
obviously changed.
Yes, sir. A lot.
So what made the change?
Basically, those are still initial days of figuring out if the concept will really work in the market or not. But when we talk to people in different HR companies, they were really, really excited. And we thought, hey, why not scale up fast so that we can really capture the bulk of the market, because they want something like this really, really soon.
I spoke to my HR, and they seem to think getting the right person is more important than the time.
Yes, sir.
So I think what you've been doing is trying to pitch that you save time.
Yes,
which is important, but I think the more important thing is to make sure you get the right person.
Exactly.
How do you kind of adjust for the cultural fit? Different organizations have different cultures, and that's very important right now.
Yes, sir.
So where do you adjust that into your whole kind of...
So that's where the case discussion actually, the essence of the case discussion really comes in. Because if I have my business manager sitting in and looking at the people who are being interviewed, and if you come from a company that promotes a certain kind of culture, you can actually see how the dynamics of the group works. And you can actually see very, very clearly, because we ran some tests, just to see how this would work eventually. We made some people sit down in a class, not look at each other, just discuss the case. And we actually found that you can tell very, very clearly how each person is different from the other. And then as a business manager, you can say, hey, that's a guy I can work with. That's the kind of thinking that I'm looking for. That's the attitude that I'm looking for.
To be honest, as a candidate, if I were asked to sit in on a call where I can't see my colleagues, I'd be very reluctant unless I really want that job. I'd say, I think right now it's basically a employees market and they decide who they work for, especially in IT. We have an IT company in Bangalore, attrition is 30%. Not because we don't want them, they don't want us. So if I ask him now to sit in on a call, where he's not going to see 5 colleagues and he just has to chat live, I think that may be a challenge from the candidate's perspective. So have you kind of investigated that? What is the feeling there?
Yes, sir. So the feedback there really is, first of all, if the job is lucrative, that's a given. That's what's going to happen. With technology, with more options, that is something that's going to happen because employees will have more choice and then it's these kind of tools which will attract the right people. Because you ultimately want a good fit, right? So, if you have tools like this, which is saying that, hey, you know what, we can let you think on your feet. This is the kind of work you're supposed to do. If they get a feel of that, as soon as they come into the case discussion, I think you have a better chance of getting the right guy.
You're not saying this is a substitute for interview. This is a filtering system.
This is a filtering system.
This is an early filtering system which would lead to an interview.
Yeah, eventually what we also found was that the face-to-face interview really is the selection point, where they make the offer, where they negotiate terms of how many months can you exit your previous company and how soon can you join us, because that negotiation really has to be one-on-one.
Can you integrate psychometrics with this?
Yes, so going forward, because previously in the evaluation phase, when we were talking to different companies, they use your Myers-Briggs test.
Yeah, Myers-Briggs, Velvet.
Yeah. So what they said was those tests really compartmentalize the person. And it just says, okay, this person might be of this particular personality type. But then it's really, then it comes down to the interviews, because that, you then try to validate what you've seen in the Myers-Briggs test, and it takes a long time for that. So what we're saying is in case discussions, just bring them on board. Okay, if you have, eventually going forward, if we have a personality evaluation tool, that's why the online quiz that Sai talked about. So when we give you the quiz, key decision points, what would you do in each of these spaces? Then we map your personality and say, okay, this kind of person, this situation would probably take these decisions. And then when he's discussing the case, you see, well, if this person actually thinks that way or not. So it's kind of an indicator. But of course, competing with psychometric tests would probably need a separate set of expertise and skills, because those typically have to be validated over a large sample before companies would really trust us.
What does the candidate need at home? He's going to do this from home, presumably.
Yeah. Just a computer with I think a broadband connection. Broadband connection, I think 128 kbps. 300 kbps. 300 kbps.
Just to ensure that.
You don't have to download any of your software.
No, nothing. It's an online tool. You just log into the system and it will guide you through.
See your revenue model, you don't charge for success, right? You charge per interview.
Per case.
Per session.
Per session.
Per session.
And how much do you charge per session?
$15. 50.
And maximum of how many candidates?
So currently we've kept it at 10 because, but 10 also we feel is too much, because typically managerial candidates, you don't get 10 at a time. It's roughly about 5 to 6 is what we have found for each position.
So again, to achieve your targets, that's a lot of $50 you have to collect. Yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're actually quite bullish, quite optimistic about this.
So what percent of the total recruitment? If you look at all these headhunting companies, what percent? Because your revenues are pretty aggressive compared to what they kind of earn. So
So eventually we plan to sell to them as well, so that they improve their chances of converting into revenues. Because they're paid on, if you give me 5 candidates, if I take this one, then I'll pay you 2 months' salary. It's typically how the big headhunters work. So eventually when we try to sell to them, we'll try to sell to them as well.
No, but realistically speaking, to achieve your numbers, you need a lot of these interviews to be set up. I was just trying to say, how many a day?
At our maximum volumes, we're expecting about 30 interviews per hour.
13, so.
30 interviews per hour.
Every day, 24/7.
No, in a 12-hour day.
Okay.
In a 12-hour day over 200 days. In a financial year.
13 or
30.
30?
It's easy. Yeah.
So
Your primary market is not the headhunters to start with. It's companies.
It's the companies.
The companies.
Okay, that's the time wrap. And thank you, team, for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Is that your
No,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone yesterday.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.